I always want to make it perfectly clear that I am not a channeler. I don't channel and I'm not a psychic, I'm a hypnotherapist. And I've been doing hypnotherapy for 40 years. I started out way back when things were simple and they had the old-fashioned methods. But I got into past life therapy and past life regressions about 30 years ago. That's my main field, is I do the therapy by taking people into their other lifetimes to find the answers to problems in this lifetime. And I developed my own technique, my hypnotic technique, that is very different from the ones the other hypnotists use. And that's important because I've found a way to reach the subconscious where you can find a great deal of information that way. And I can have the answers just about anything that I want. That's why I think I've been able to get the information on all the subjects that I've written about. The first time I did it, they were having a MUFON meeting with all the investigators at a state meeting. And they wanted me to put this woman under just so they could ask questions. They were bringing her in from Oklahoma. And she didn't know us, we didn't know her. And I said, this is a goldfish type atmosphere, not exactly the best type of an environment to do this kind of work. But surprisingly, it worked. And they didn't know it was the first time for me to try that. I knew I had to adapt my technique. They didn't know it was my first time to do it. It worked beautifully. And after that, I began doing more and more cases with UFO phenomena. And the work I've done now for the last 20 years in this field, I have found to be positive. I know a lot of the other investigators are getting the negative and the fear, but I haven't found that. All right, in the beginning, I had a lot of missing time cases, which you've probably heard about, where a person has time that's not accounted for. But in some of mine, like the one woman she left work and she was going to get lunch, and the people in the office wanted her to get lunch for them. Well, she went out to get lunch and she comes back and they said, well, it's time to go home now, we don't want it. She lost half of the day. And another time she was going to a party and she got on the freeway. When she gets there, they said, well, you could have told us you were going to be late, we're leaving now. She would lose whole blocks of time like that. So when I did the session with her, I found out she was being taken, car and all, off of the freeway. So I asked them, I said, can you do that? And he said, certainly, we can do anything. So I said, well, why didn't you take the car? Couldn't you have just taken her and left the car there? They said that would have presented a problem because the police would have come, there would have been a car sitting on the freeway all by itself. Much easier to just take the car off the freeway. And I said, yes, but what about the people on the freeway? Wouldn't they be surprised seeing a car going up in the air? They said they will see it, but they won't remember what they saw. So they are able to manipulate time and space and matter. I've had a lot of cases where people will be driving on a highway and see a huge UFO right over the freeway. They pull off to watch it, and they can't figure out, why does everybody just keep driving? They should be slamming on their brakes and stopping to see what it is, because it's a very individual thing. The sightings and the experiences are only for the person they're intended for. Many people will have experiences and their husband's in bed asleep, and it's not for them, it's just for the one person. So it's a very individual thing. And I've had many of these where they were taken like that. I had a woman in Hawaii who was at a convention, and she wanted to drive down to a hotel on the ocean to have dinner. She was driving down there and she missed the entrance to the hotel. And she went up a little further to turn around and go back. And when she did, she found this beautiful mobile home park with palm trees and flowers. She turns in to go around and go back. The next instant, she was on the other side of the island, going the opposite direction, and it was night. And later she went back to see if she could find this place again, and she never could find it. So she wanted to know what happened. So when I took her under, they said she drove in, and they took her up in a beam of light, the car and everything, onto the UFO. And sometimes people have told me they have seen like tall blondes in their room, but usually they have a see-through quality. This is because it's not really them. It is like a holographic projection into the room of this being, because they don't want to experience that. So you're going to see more of the little beings in the smaller craft than you will the others, and the large craft stays out of the atmosphere. Occasionally, a person has to have tests done that will have to be done on the larger craft. In that case, they will take the person and they have to speed up the vibration and frequency of the human body so they can exist in that environment for a short period of time. They do it as quick as they can because it's very hard on the human body. And they put them into a hypnotic-like state because they don't want them to remember, they don't want it to hurt the psyche. So they take them on board the larger craft, do what they have to do, and bring them back. Now, I have had people talk about waking up feeling paralyzed and with bruises on their body. And they'll say, what happened? Did they take me and beat me up? All that happened was when you do this raising of the vibration and lowering the vibration again, they said they have to lower the vibration to bring you back. Just that act of breathing can create bruises on the body because the molecular structure and the cellular structure is not by the right vibration. And then when they come back into the body, it takes a few seconds to get back into this vibration and to hook it all up again, so they have this feeling of paralysis if they happen to wake up at the wrong time. And the bruises are just from the shifting of the dimensions. To me, that makes a whole lot more sense. I've done lectures, and especially in Australia, and people would start crying in the audience, and I said, well, I hope I'm not saying something to offend you. They said, no, for the first time it all makes sense. If there is a message from them, is that they do want us to join with them eventually, but they want us to know we are children of the stars. We have been created and taken care of since the beginning of time. They have no desire to harm us. They are our caretakers. And they love the species because they love the way it's developing. They don't like what we're doing. But if there's a message, it's to let people know that they are not negative and they are here to help us. They will eventually appear in mass, but it won't be until we get our act together. And at that time, they will appear and let everyone know they're here. And they said at that time they would also give us lots of medications and cures and help the bodies. At one time, I had a regression, which I thought was a regression. Actually, it was a future progression. A man was in a football stadium, and this huge UFO came down into the football stadium. And they got out and announced to the people they were finally going to announce themselves to the world. And they were here to help the world with the medications and all the things we were going to need. And they said this is occurring simultaneously all over the world where lots of people were gathered. They would appear instantaneously all over the world to these people. And that way the governments would not be able to deny it. But they said there will still be some people sitting in that stadium who will not believe what they see with their own eyes. But when this happens, we will be traveling in space, living in space, wonderful inventions you can't even imagine. They're going to give us a non-polluting form of power, of energy that will be placed on a space station and beamed to the Earth. And these are some of the amazing things they're going to give us. And the human body will be perfected to the point it will never die.